Alright. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Game of Thrones rewatch breakdown. And
You always say good morning.
I do always say good morning. I'm Jordan.
I'm Danielle.
And
This is Ophelia.
That's Ophelia. Hi, Ophelia. Just as a warning, spoiler alert, not just for. This is for. This episode is for episode 4 of season 1, but the spoiler alert is going to go through season 6 of the TV show and all of the novels. We're going to be discussing theory and how things that happen in these early episodes reflect on later episodes. So if you are trying to avoid spoilers, I would avoid this. So Danielle, season 1, episode 4.
Rewatch breakdown.
Rewatch breakdown. What do we got?
We start in Winterfell. Bran is having another crow dream. So he had one in the previous episode, and we're getting another one. This time it's leading him down to the crypt, which there's some theories around that.
Yes, Crypts of Winterfell.
We have, something I found interesting was that, so Theon comes in to Bran's room, and Summer growls
at Theon. Yes, and the direwolves are much more in tune with things than people are. So yes, the Summer knows that Theon is trouble.
Yeah. And then we have, so Theon is coming to Bran's room because Tyrion is there, and they're saying that he needs to come and be a part of that. And Bran is just angry at the world still, like we talked about in the last episode, he would rather be dead. So he's just kind of unhappy and confused right now. So he does come down. We got the first time of Hodor carrying Bran, which is great. And so we have Robb being very short and upset with Tyrion because, as far as he knows, his family is the one who hurt Bran.
Yes, and also keep in mind that the Starks at this point are trying to hide that Catelyn's not there.
Right.
Because Catelyn is down in she's now headed back to Winterfell. They don't know that, but they're trying to hide from Tyrion that she's not there. And so having Robb sit in as the Lord and then all the other family members there, but Tyrion's way too smart for that. He figures out pretty quickly that she's not there.
Right. And so we have Tyrion giving Bran the schematics for a saddle.
Yes, that he will be able to ride a horse again, which is, Jon asked Tyrion before he left Winterfell, say hi to my brother and try to help him if you can. And so he does. So Tyrion, even though the Starks are being so unlikable towards him, he still is trying to help because Bran is one of his people.
Right, and that's where you do get, Robb is wondering, is this a trick? Is this a game? Like, he's very suspicious of Tyrion. And that's when you get his line about that he has an affinity for
cripples, bastards, and broken things.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And Bran is like, I'm not one of those things.
And he says that I'm not a dwarf. Yeah, right. Exactly.
But you see that Robb, once that happens, Robb sees that Tyrion is not that bad, actually.
Yes.
So he offers him to stay there, but Tyrion is like, I'll go to the brothel.
And that's kind of an ongoing thing in Game of Thrones too, is the Starks realizing that Tyrion's not that bad, because Sansa starts to figure that out later too when she's forced to marry Tyrion. She starts to figure out that hey, this guy could be being a lot worse to me, and he's not. So
well, he's not really bad to them ever. He's just part of a bad family.
Yes.
So then we go to the wall, and the big thing that happens there is we get introduced to Sam for the first time. So he's pretty pathetic.
When we see Jon the teacher again, as he's helping his fellow Castle Black initiates fight better, and then we get Sam, who's just terrible, completely terrible at everything,
and not just terrible, but really fearful. He even says, "I'm a coward."
He does not belong there at all.
Which we later find out more about his story.
Yes.
So we then jump over to Essos. What?
That's just every scene with Viserys makes me laugh because it's so terrible.
So we hear more about Ned Stark wanting his head, Jorah's head.
Yes.
So we get reminded, basically, so that you know later on when he betrays Dany, like, what was the backstory behind that.
Yes.
We also see Viserys it's him and one of
I think it's
Daenerys'
Doria, isn't that her name?
I think it's something like that with a D.
It's the one, the pleasure slave.
Right. So
Yeah.
the one non-Dothraki
Mhm.
girl, in the bathtub with him, and she pours hot wax on him, and he says, "Ow!"
It burns him.
It burns him.
We've already seen Dany get in the hot bath, no problem, and then later on, obviously, she walks through flames multiple times. And yeah, so he is not the true dragon, even though he claims to be, because he's so, easily harmed by
Right.
the hotness.
What I also find interesting about their conversation is she talks about, she may have been in a brothel, but she's seen a lot. She talks about dragon glass,
Mm-hmm.
and she talks about people who change faces. So very foreshadowing to important aspects of the story later on, that these things have been around. It's
no secret.
right.
It's just people in general
In Westeros, they're not
Yeah.
exposed to it.
Yeah.
So then we jump over to King's Landing. We have Sansa, and she's hearing about her uncles who were killed,
Yes.
and I think it's Joffrey kind of mocking that.
Yes. By the Mad King.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, when the story behind how Ned's dad and brother died is pretty brutal.
Or uncle.
It's
His
Ned's
dad's brother,
Yeah, sure.
I think.
Yeah.
I think Ned just has. I don't know. You'll tell us we're wrong
Yes.
in the comments.
But yes, he burns one of them alive, ties a rope around the other's neck, and says,
And
"If you
he
can,
strangles himself
if
trying
you
to
can
save
get to him, if you can get
his
to a
brother.
sword, you can free him." And they both die. Yeah, pretty awful. And this is also where we meet Jaina Slint, the captain of the Gold Cloaks, the city watch basically for King's Landing, who later gets sent to the Wall. But he was in this scene being terrible. So.
Then we get the small council.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of seeing how the kingdom is being run and how Ned is like kind of upset about how things are, but also very confused by how everyone is showing him this like level of respect that he's not used to getting, and he's uncomfortable by it.
Yeah, Ned is basically the king, as the hand of the king for the king that does not want to be the king. He basically is running the show and does not like how the show is being run already.
Mm-hmm.
This extravagant money borrowing and
It's very different than what he's used to as a northerner too.
yes,
Like even the way, you think about in King's Landing when somebody gets beheaded, it's not the king that does it, but whereas Ned is very much like, if I make the
Yes.
sentence, I swing the sword.
yes,
So he's very out of place here.
mm-hmm.
And then he kind of goes exploring to uncover the secrets that Jon Arryn was searching for before his death, to kind of uncover some of that. And he finds out that he was saying the seed is strong,
Mm-hmm.
and was repeating that.
And he gets the big old book, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so they also mentioned poison is a woman's weapon, which
Mhm.
we talked about in our last episode, because they think that Ned thinks maybe he was poisoned.
Yes.
So
And then-
he's pointing to Cersei as the...
And then Pycelle puts in his ear that it might be. He also
A
says the
eunuch.
weapon of eunuchs, so because Pycelle really does not like Varys.
Which later we find out it's neither of them. It was
Yes.
his wife that
Yes.
poisoned him. I mean, I guess that is a woman, but it's not
But
either of the
ultimately,
people they're thinking of.
it's on Littlefinger who
Right.
told her to do it, though.
And then we have Arya and Ned again. So this is when they are on the stairway and she's
Yes.
practicing and she's talking about she's going to be catching cats.
Yeah, and I love when she keeps saying like, Syria says, and then like Ned starts like mouthing her words. Like he totally gets this love that Arya has for this new training she's doing. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's sad that those two didn't get more time together on this show, because they, Arya has some of the best scenes when she's paired up with just one person.
Yeah.
Her and the Hound's journey, when she was
Her and
cupbearer
Tyrion.
for Tywin.
Tywin,
Yeah, it's too bad she didn't get more time with Ned, because it looks like
They have a unique bond.
they had a cool chemistry.
I think it's because in the books it's paired a lot that she's really similar to Lyanna,
Yes.
Ned's older sister.
Yes.
So I think that he definitely sees that in her, and maybe that's where some of his fear comes through when he sees her being that way, because obviously Lyanna was very headstrong, and it kind of got her into some trouble.
Yep.
So there's some stuff about theory that we'll come back to with that conversation, but he does try to like say, oh, you're gonna have sons that are this and that, and she's like, no, that's not me.
She says, that's not me. Yeah.
And she's really clear about who she is early on, which I find really cool.
Yes.
We go back to the wall, and we get John and Sam, and they start to bond. We find out a little bit about Sam's backstory, which doesn't really pay off for seasons.
But his life is terrible.
Yeah, his story is one of the saddest ones of being there.
His dad is just a ridiculous monster of a person, so...
yeah, he should have been on our evilest list last
He should have, but we just don't know him well enough, but he's pretty nasty.
So they kind of bond, and that obviously pays off in the long run. We go back to King's Landing, and we have Ned and Peter, and we get the great line of Peter saying, the only thing you've done right.
The smartest thing you've done is not trust me. Because, Ned starts to thank him for his help, and he says, no. And it's funny because this is a moment of Littlefinger truly being honest. Ned should not trust him in any way, because, again, this is an example of Ned not quite realizing the danger he and his family are in from people like this.
Right, and he is helping him, too. He is following through on what he said, so that's interesting, because, Peter is one of those people that you never really know what his goal is. Even when he shares it with Sansa at the end of season 6, it's like, is that really his goal? Who knows?
Yeah, he might just be pulling more strings.
Right, because he wants to put that idea in her head. He wants to put this idea in Ned's head. Who knows?
Yeah, he tells them all about the different spies. That's one of Varys' spies. That's one of my spies. That's one of Cersei's spies. So you're being watched everywhere you go. But here's a little information for you, and he kind of pushes him towards
Gendry.
Robert's bastard Gendry.
So we meet Gendry.
He's still Rowan, as far as we know.
I hope he comes back. George R. R. Martin has said that him and Arya do reunite in the books, at least. So I'm hoping by season 7, get some Gendry.
Maybe both his arms will be the same size.
I want them
now.
to fall. That would be the old love story. Arya and Gendry rule. New theory. Okay. So Ned immediately knows that it's Robert's.
Yeah, he recognizes him right away. The hair, the face, everything about it, and then basically tells him, "You keep doing you. You just stay here and stay out of sight, and come get me if you ever need help." Basically.
Right. And the other thing that's interesting, so we do get Jaime talking to, I forget who, maybe Ned, but they're talking about Theon, and someone's like, "Oh, he's a good lad," and Jaime's like, "I doubt it."
Yeah, and
which is very accurate.
So twice this episode that someone has predicted Theon is not a good lad.
Right, we have Summer growling, and then Jaime saying that. Okay, so then we go to the wall, and we have John protecting Sam, so he's like going to the other guys and saying, "You're not going to fight him tomorrow. This is the way it is," and really showing his leadership skills. And
then we get Sir Alistair, who's kind of John's nemesis, and we get this really interesting thing with this, because Sir Alistair is such a jerk. Like a terrible, terrible human being, not a very good teacher, but at the same time, he's kind of right.
Yeah.
He makes this claim that, when you go north of the wall, the wildlings aren't going to go easy on you. The White Walkers aren't going to go easy on you. You need to learn how to toughen up or die doing it, because you're going to not get mercy out there.
Right. I do think what's interesting, though, is, they're not all going to be fighters. The wall needs all kind of people, and so in this early time, they kind of really are stressing, if you're not tough enough to be here. But in reality, you need cooks, you need people who are cleaning, you need all these different aspects.
I think Alistair's point, though, is at some point trouble's
everyone
coming
has
here,
to fight.
and as a member of the Night's Watch, you need to know how to fight. And he could go about it a little better, but he gets it. He just doesn't go about it
right. Well,
way.
He's like Benjen. He's been out there. He knows that it's not. He might not know about White Walkers. He might. Who knows? He doesn't say.
Yeah.
But he knows that it's a lot scarier out there than anyone realizes.
Yes.
And he's very aware of the lack of numbers.
Yes.
So you're probably right. So we go back to Essos, and we have Dany fighting Viserys in her room or whatever.
Is this when she tries to give him the clothing?
Yeah, she
Yes.
calls him to dinner, and he takes that as
She orders him to dinner, yeah. And then she tries to give him like a leather vest, kind of in the style of the Dothraki, even though it's super nice.
Mm-hmm.
And he takes it as you're misappropriating our culture, basically. You're trying to turn me into a horse lord instead of a king. But again, her...
It's when he like attacks her, and
Yeah.
she actually she
She
beats
hits him
him
with a belt. Yeah, like a decorative belt, yeah.
And she really owns her power there.
Yeah, and this is really the moment where it started last week, I think, with the horses, but this is the moment where she really takes it in her hands and says, I don't need you. Like, I have the power and you have none. So, yeah. I think that's a really powerful moment for her, kind of taking possession, taking ownership of who she is.
Yes. We go back to the wall. I wrote down Sally on the side because I thought that was funny.
Is that something Sam said to him? To John?
One of them said, so John and Sam are cleaning tables.
And they're bonding over it. They're talking about girls and...
Right.
Yeah.
And they kind of complain about the fact that we're not supposed to have any relationships. Yeah, all these people go to...
There's the brothel not far, Molestown, yes.
And so they say something like, oh, so many people have Sally on this
Sally
side.
on the side. Well, Sam is such a doofus, yeah. Like, oh, but you getting loads of girls, yeah.
One thing I really like, which is interesting, is John says he went to a brothel and he couldn't do it because he doesn't want to create a bastard.
Yes, that's kind of a powerful moment that he doesn't want to make another him, essentially, because he's suffered so much and because of this issue, and he knows how much people can suffer, especially if he says, I was lucky because I was raised in Winterfell. I was raised in, rich and powerful, but I'm still a bastard. I can't imagine a prostitute raising a bastard, what that kid's life would be like.
Well, and I think, in the last episode I talked about how Ygritte is an evil character. And I think that it gives more precedent to the fact that she basically raped him, because she was holding over him the fact that
you're gonna die.
He was gonna die if she didn't, and so he gives in, and people say, "Oh, she seduced him." I mean, he is smart enough to know that that's all.
Yes.
He had to do that to survive, and yes, I think he did develop feelings for her, which lots of people develop feelings for people who are abusive to them.
Yes.
Like Dany had to her brother, and so on. But I think this points to the fact that. He's such a Stark, and he's so honorable, and he does not want to create a bastard, that he wouldn't do those things without fear and being in a survival mode.
Now, I also liked at this point, too, Sam asks John about his family, and John says, I know nothing of my mother. It's poor Jon Snow. He never knows. Nothing. He never knows.
And they do mention Craster, which of course becomes more important.
Yes, he shows up later.
And then we go back to Essos. We have Dany and Jorah talking. So he's back from his errand he had to run.
Yes.
To go be a spy. And we have Dany and Jorah talk. They both are sharing how they are praying for home, and that Dany's realizing that Viserys will never take her home.
He's not the answer, yes.
Yeah.
If they're going to get home, it's going to be her that does it.
And I think at this point she's in love with Drogo. So I think that she really sees him as... I think she knows that she's the powerful one and has to motivate, but that together they can do it. And she's still not fully independent.
No, it's not until... I don't think it's until she eats the heart that she truly becomes...
Feels confident with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we go back to King's Landing for the joust
the
tournament.
Tournament, yes. Which we already met Sir Hugh. Remember, Ned already tried to talk to Sir Hugh, who was the squire to Jon Arryn. And Sir Hugh basically... Sir Hugh is kind of a bitch about it, kind of just, get out of here, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, which do we know why he went to talk to him?
Because Sir Hugh was the squire of Jon Arryn. That's the only reason.
Oh, okay.
And then he was promoted to knight very quickly. So that seems kind of suspicious.
Gotcha. So it's him versus the Mountain.
Yes.
which is the first actor there.
And this is also when Peter tells Sansa the story of the Mountain and the Hound.
And Arya. I mean,
Yes,
he's
true.
trying to tell Sansa, but it's...
Yeah. So we hear the story
Arya's
of the
listening
Mountain holding his brother's face into the flames because he stole his toy, right? Isn't that why? And so you get the sense of this kind of brutality of the Mountain, and then...
Which helps us then see the arc of the Hound over time,
why
too.
he is the way he is, why he hates knights so much, all that stuff. But yeah, then we get Mountain versus Sir Hugh, which does not go so well for Sir Hugh. The Mountain is such a strong, expert jouster that he accidentally kills Sir Hugh by stabbing him in the throat with his jousting, with his lance.
Right. And what I find interesting is, like, you see Sansa in fear. You see Arya almost excited to see a death. Her eyes get big. She focuses in. Versus we know Sansa doesn't really get that stomach for that kind of thing until Ramsay
this is the first time Arya's seen anyone die. Because she doesn't go to the executions and stuff like the boys do. So, Serial Pharrell has told her that when you prick a man, water comes out. And this is the first time she really sees that water coming out of poor Sir Hugh. Get off of there. Little Cleo.
Okay, and then the last scene is, I think it's the King's Road, basically. We have...
Oh, before that, though, too.
Okay.
There's also a conversation at the tournament, Cersei talking to Ned. When
Okay.
Ned leaves the tournament, and this is when Cersei and Ned first really have a kind of headbutting episode where they both are on the same page of, we are not on the same side here. Mm-hmm. And Cersei specifically tells Ned, you don't belong here. She says, you're just a soldier. You don't have the brains to be here. And she's right, ultimately. It's because Ned is essentially just a soldier.
Well, and the North is so much more straightforward.
Yes. He's not used to this kind of underhanded backstabbing.
And so many people playing a game versus people just
doing
either
what's right.
fighting you or
doing what's
doing
right.
What's right.
Yes. And then we get to,
then we go to the King's Road, and we have Catelyn and Tyrion in
the random bar.
A bar, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the Inn at the Crossroads or whatever it's called. Yes.
So she tries to kind of hide from him, but of course,
there's that stupid bard calls him over. Remember that guy wants to play the song for him, and then he calls Lord Tyrion over to the table.
Yeah, so he sees Catelyn, and
he thinks they're all friends. Because last time he was there, the Starks were all kind to him. When he was just there, Robb was kind to him. Bran was kind to him.
Right, he does do a little bit of poking at the fact that he knows she wasn't there. And of course, so she calls out all the people to kind of hold him at trial, basically.
Because at this point, she thinks Tyrion sent the assassin after Bran with the knife. And Tyrion has no clue what's going on. Like he
doesn't even know the assassin was sent.
Yes.
Because he wasn't with his family or
yes.
anything. Of course, he knows that his siblings are the ones who put, or at least he assumes.
Yes. So he probably knows why she's arresting him, but he doesn't quite know the full extent of it at this point.
And that kind of ends it. They talk about the king's justice.
Yes, and that's such a good scene at the end too, where they're all holding the swords up, and Tyrion's just staying in the middle, like. And you know who else we meet in this episode?
Bronn.
Bronn for the first time. Bronn, one of my favorite characters. He's at the inn as well, and this is where he meets up with Tyrion, and eventually they become buddies. So theories. What kind of theories do we have from this episode?
Okay, we can talk about the crypt.
Yes.
There's some theories with the crypt.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. When Ned and Arya are talking about Bran, there's some theories there. I feel like I said something else, but that might be it.
Okay, so when you say the crypt, you mean the crypt of Winterfell?
Yes.
And what's going on with that?
So you have the Crow leading Bran down there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of theories around what makes the Crypt of Winterfell the Crypt of Winter, like what, there's something unique about that, and it's much more in the books than in the show. Like Jon has dreams of someone taking him down to the crypt, and it getting colder and colder.
Several of the kids have talked about the crypt, some feeling they get in the crypt, which it starts out as just, kids are scared of a graveyard, but it takes on a lot more power than that, it seems like, as the show goes on.
Right.
Or as the books go on.
And we never really know why it's taking him down, like why the crow is taking Bran down there, and it doesn't explicitly state that either.
No. It probably is the big figuring out who Jon Snow's parents are.
That's one of the theories, that there's some clues to that. Another theory that's more in the books is the origin of the White Walkers in the books is that there actually was a female White Walker that a Stark king married. And that's kind of, although in the show we know that's not how White Walkers started, in the books there's thoughts that like she died and was buried down there, so she's like the start of winter in the crypt. There's lots of other like magical types of theories of like what could be down there.
There is a sort of reverence for the Crypt of Winterfell that we don't really see. We don't spend as much time in other places, but like when Ned is killed, it's extremely important to the Stark family that his bones are sent back and he's buried in the crypt. When, in the very first episode, when Robert, his whole kingdom gets there, the first thing he does before they do anything is take me down to the crypt. So there is,
and he's upset that she's down there, and Ned, it's very much like she's a Stark. This is where she belongs.
So there's a very interesting air about the crypt that we're not quite sure what it is yet.
So one big theory or saying is that a Stark must always be in Winterfell. Is it because of something in the crypt and keeping it there and having those, those bones stay there? All of this family, who knows?
Yeah.
So,
and then the other theory you want to talk about was what?
So when Arya and Ned are talking about Bran and what he could be, they mention he could be a builder like Bran the Builder. So as we've talked about in other videos, there's a theory that Bran is Bran the Builder, and that he is some of the past Brans in the Stark line.
Using this time travel past manipulation that he has now.
As the Three of Raven.
Yes. So, yeah, again, more hints that it could be possible that he is not necessarily all the Brans, but at least that very important Bran.
Bran the Builder seems the most
because he built Winterfell,
relevant.
He built the Citadel in Old Town, right?
He built the Wall and Winterfell, and then he helped build the Citadel in Old Town, and then
Storm's End.
Storm's End.
Yes, and so there's this idea that he built all the most important places. The library where
That's actually our idea.
Yeah, the library.
I'm sure other people have had it, but
Sam finds about the White Walkers. The Storm's End, where Daenerys was born, and ultimately too, that's what got Davos his knighthood, who comes back to help Jon.
Right. So the most important buildings for fighting the White Walkers are from Bran the Builder. At least, even if you didn't build it directly, he helped draw out the schemes or what have you.
So yes, it's possible. There's another hint that Bran may be that Bran with his time traveling abilities.
So it's just nice to see those hints dropped throughout.
Yes. So on to our list. Oh, this was a fun one. And this one was kind of all over the place because we didn't really clarify what it meant. We just kind of let people figure it out.
Right. So first, if you have any thoughts on those theories about Bran being Bran the Builder and what might be in the Crypts of Winterfell, we would love to hear your thoughts on it. So please put that in the comments. And now, best deaths.
Best deaths. And some people took it to mean the death that impacted me personally the most. Some took it to mean most impactful on the kingdom. Some people just took it as most gruesome.
Cinematic.
Yeah, most cinematic. So we were kind of all over the place, although most of our top ones were kind of close. But
I don't remember, so.
Let's start with our 10s and whatnot, and then we'll do our groups list. So my number 10 was Renly. I chose Renly because this was the first time we truly saw the power of magic, I feel like, in Westeros. I mean, we had blood magic, sort of, and we had the dragons, but this was like, whoa, people can cast evil magic spells. This was the Shadow Assassin from Melisandre.
It's a big reminder that this is a sci-fi show. It's not a medieval, historical type of show.
Yeah.
My number 10 was Tommen.
Yeah. His was powerful.
Yeah.
And just the cap to an amazing scene.
Well, what I really liked about it is that it was the first time that we've seen suicide in the show. We've seen a lot of death, but we haven't seen someone take their own life. So I thought that was memorable and powerful.
Yeah, and just the circumstances of it, that was such a just powerful scene in general. My number 9 was kind of an oddball one. I chose Miranda, who was Ramsay's girlfriend. I just thought that scene was so surprising when Theon and Sansa were trying to escape, and Theon pushed her off, and she just kind of splatted.
I had that as an honorable mention.
Yeah, I thought her death was pretty fun.
My number 9 was Shay. I just thought the emotion behind that, and of course Tyrion's acting is
the
fantastic.
betrayal of Tyrion, and just the way he did it, strangling her with his own chain. That was pretty impressive. My number 8 was Lysa Arryn. I love the Moon Door, and this was the first time we've seen Littlefinger actually get his hands dirty. I mean, he killed someone with witness, but pretty powerful, I thought, when he admitted his love for Catelyn, pushing his wife through the Moon Door.
Right.
So.
And I don't think that was his plan, even. Cause
No.
It's only because she saw him kiss Sansa.
Yes.
She's obviously crazy. So.
And she was going to kill Sansa if he didn't kill her.
Yeah.
So.
My number 8 was Mirren Trant. Obviously,
that was my number. I hate to jump forward, but that was my number 7. Yes. Yeah. I remember watching that scene with you the first time we ever saw it, and I couldn't believe it was real. I thought Arya was having like a dream.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Because it was so like the good guys don't get to win. Yeah.
And she hadn't shown like she'd slowly becoming more gruesome and powerful. Yeah, but this
the way
was
she
like
did it. Oh, she
like
blinded him and then was like, "This is who I am. You're dead."
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so cool.
My number 7 was Joffrey.
Yeah, Joffrey's death was
not long anticipated.
Yeah, not the best like cinematic death, but just a real get him moment. My number 6, because of the cinematic gruesome quality, Oberyn Martell. That's probably the most visceral reaction I've ever had to an on-screen death in anything ever was watching Oberyn die.
My number 6 was Viserys.
Yeah.
It's a very
cool death, a very memorable
unique,
death, pouring the gold over his head, giving him the crown he kept whining about. My number 5 was another kind of oddball one. I chose Krasnus Mo Noklos, whose name I had to look up.
He was on my honorable mention, though.
Because that's the one where Daenerys gets the Unsullied for the dragon, and then she tells the dragon to torch him. And it's and she says Dracarys, and it was just a powerful moment, and just watching this human bonfire was interesting. Yeah. So that was my 5.
My 5 was Hodor.
Hodor was powerful. And just such
sad. Just a really sad one.
Yeah. My number 4 was Ned Stark, more just for what it did for the show. You know, Game of Thrones, killing one of the only known actors, like big-time actors on the show, in Sean Bean, and the hero of the story dies, and it's just, okay, anything can happen now.
My number 4 was Ramsay, being eaten by his dogs. Obviously, good justice.
Yeah, needed to happen. My number 3, we kind of clumped all these together. I just said the Red Wedding in general.
My number 3 is Tywin, him getting shot on the toilet, of course.
Yes, that was a pretty powerful moment. My 2 was Viserys, crowned for a king. I loved when he falls and hits the floor and it thuds on the ground.
My number 2 is Jon Snow. A lot of people didn't have him, I think, because they didn't think about him as being dead, but he did die.
Yeah, he did. And my number 1, I thought the most powerful cinematic death the show has ever done is the Great Sept blowing up in the last episode of season 6. Just this unbelievable. And I kind of thought it was coming, but I did not expect it to go off that well for Cersei. I did not expect her plan to work perfectly. like it did, and so it really surprised me.
My number one was Oberyn. It was the one death that I have not been able to visually watch because it was so gruesome, and I think just it was talked about so much. It just was really powerful.
Yes.
So our group list?
Our group list, there was a tie for 10th place. It was a three-way tie. Walder, Tommen, and Lady. Lady had a big impact on a lot of people because nobody likes to see animals die. But someone's at the door, obviously. But we're going to finish this video first.
Okay.
Number 9 was Renly, the shadow monster. Number 8 was the Red Wedding. Number 7 was Oberyn. Number 6 was Ned. 5 was Hodor. There was a tie for 3rd place between Tywin Lannister, shot on the toilet, and Ramsay Bolton, eaten by his own dogs. Joffrey was number 2 because so many people wanted to see Joffrey die. And finally, at number 1, Crown for a King. Crown for a King. Viserys had a really powerful... That scene was just so nice to see Drogo just be like, screw you.
Yeah, we haven't rewatched that yet.
Yes,
so we're looking
I'm
forward
excited.
to talking
I think that's episode 6, so I think we'll watch that this week.
So we want to hear what your top 10 best deaths were
what your favorite
what
deaths.
your reasons were. And if you like this video, please give us a like and subscribe to make sure you don't miss any of our future videos.
Yes, thank you for watching. Thumbs up, like, subscribe, and we will catch you all soon. Do we want to answer the door, or should we just hold it for a while?
Hold the door. Hold the door.
That's so bad.
I hate that joke. Everyone is saying
I
it.
know, and now whenever I hear someone say hold